Good morning and happy St. Joseph's Day to the sisters, associates, and collaborators. It's a very different way for us to celebrate St. Joseph's Day, but really aren't we lucky to have the technology to be able to connect during these pandemic times? I've been thinking about how Joseph's life changed when he listened to the dream and married Mary and wound up having Jesus. He followed that dream. And then when they had the baby, it struck me that at the birth, he also again had to make another very difficult choice. Again, listened to his dream and moved to Egypt to protect his family. Think about the fears of the new country, a new group of people, the loneliness, the isolation that they felt for a long period of time in this foreign land. Doesn't it sound somewhat familiar in a way for this past year and COVID? How much more isolated we have been, how it felt like a foreign land, how much we missed one another and being able to be together. We continued in this way for the year, like Joseph, for the sake of our family and for everyone's health. I don't think I ever connected Joseph going into a foreign land before and felt any kind of affiliation with him over this time. Suddenly, it became real clear to me that that's where we were. When the time allowed, in another dream, he was able to bring his family back. After all the time away, they had to make a new normal, seeing relatives and friends who had changed, starting a new business, making a new home once again. When the time is right for us to return after COVID, we will have to do some adjusting. Seeing people in person and spending time with others. It will not be the same day to day, but to our new normal. I guess it's the Lenten door that we've walked through, and that we can look forward to finding another door as we approach Easter. This is really, truly what we've talked about with our dreams. What dreams will we have? And will we be able to listen and follow, and like Joseph did in his life? Let's work at dreaming together and pray for one another on this day and year of Joseph. Ask him to help us dream, or maybe he can be the one that comes and talks to us. Now we will connect with our sisters in Brazil and Selma.
Hello, everyone. Bom dia. I'd like to welcome you to celebrate with us here in Brazil as well, this very dear day for us, which is St. Joseph's Day. Dear associates, friends, and collaborators, sisters, it is with a gratitude that I wish you peace and good health. As I reflect on the meaning of St. Joseph's Day, I feel we are truly blessed to be sharing this day, this moment, during this time of pandemic, which has caused such great distress to all of us, as we are concerned with people who we care so much about and who have been losing their lives, losing their friends, or losing someone they love, they care about. The meaning of this day for me has a different spin when I think about how we have been called to imitate Joseph in some of the ways that Pope Francis so well says in his apostolic letter Patris Corde. He speaks to me when he talks about two aspects that I think it's important to share some of his thoughts here. The sense of obedience and acceptance of Joseph of his role as a father. During the hidden years of Jesus in Nazareth, he learned at the school of Joseph, says Pope Francis. how he learned. He learned that the will of God has to be taken daily and placed in our lives. Even at the most difficult moment of his life in Gethsemane, Jesus chose to do the Father's will rather than his own, becoming obedient unto death, even death on the cross, says in Philippians. The author of the letter to the Hebrews thus concludes that Jesus learned obedience through what he suffered. All this makes it clear that Saint Joseph was called by God to serve the person and mission of Jesus directly through the exercise of his fatherhood. And that is in this way he cooperated in the fullness of time in the great mystery of salvation and is truly a mystery of salvation. When I think of Joseph as an accepting father, I think of him with Mary, unconditionally loving her. He trusted the angel's word. The nobility of Joseph's heart is such that he learned from the law he made dependent on charity. Today, our world, where psychological, verbal, and physical violence towards women is so evident, Joseph appears as the figure of a respectful and sensitive man. Even though he does not understand the bigger picture, he makes a decision to protect Mary's good name, her dignity, and her life. In his hesitation about how best to act, God helped him to enlighten his judgment. I learn from Joseph every day and pray that I can be a good listener to the will of God with such a noble heart. Often in life, things happen whose meaning we do not understand. Our first reaction is frequently one of disappointment and rebellion. Joseph set aside his own ideas in order to accept the course of events, and mysterious as they seemed, to embrace them, take responsibility for them, and make them part of his own history. Unless we are reconciled with our own history, we will be unable to take a single step forward, for we will always remain hostage of our expectations and the disappointments that follow. Those words of Pope Francis really touch me profoundly because he really takes me to see Joseph as the way I would like to see myself as I go through this pandemic, trying to help people to provide for their families, trying to find ways to help them to have food on their table. And this spirit of Joseph as a provider, as a protector, really becomes very important at this moment. Also, Pope Francis says the spiritual path that Joseph traces for us is not one that explains, but accepts. Only as a result of this acceptance, this reconciliation can begin to glimpse a broader history, a deeper meaning. I think that helps us during this pandemic to see that it's not in our power, oftentimes, to change the course of history, because there are so many forces around that pushes us into sometimes the difficult spaces. So sometimes, especially in times of great distress, my prayer is that I can be accepting, as Joseph was, of the will of God. I hope that we can celebrate this day with joy, in spite of all the difficulties that we have been going through and seeing people going through. Happy feast day for all of us.
Hello, I'm Sister Kathy Navarra, sending greetings from Selma, Alabama. I'm in front of what was St. Elizabeth's Church, now St. Edmund Memorial Chapel, where we have daily Mass. We just commemorated Bloody Sunday. To me, that time in our history was our Joseph charism standing tall. We couldn't march, but we stayed the course. We worked, we healed, we taught. Today, 80 plus years later, still with the Edmundite missions, we are, like Joseph, we are still dreaming new possibilities. Our work today with farmers provides free, fresh produce for our pantries. Our healing is in our kitchen with nutritious meals. And the children are teaching us this new platform to educate. So when I think of Joseph, I think we are leading here in Selma by a quiet, faithful example. And that's who St. Joseph is to me. On behalf of Pat and Nancy, we are proud to represent y'all here in Selma. And thank you for listening and for your support.
Thank you all for being here and being part of the family of Joseph. Let us continue to walk together with the dreams and the hopes and the idea of what our future is. Have a wonderful day, and please let's all pray that the pandemic is going to go away soon so we can be together. At least we can be together today in heart. Thank you.
Joseph, I recognize you as my companion on this journey by your ever-ready hand to help and by your open, available heart. I am walking with my loves, with my doubts, with my hesitations, just as I imagine Mary did. And I need you with me now, as you were with Mary. Joseph, take my hand and lead me when night and darkness make my steps uncertain. When you searched for your son, you found him. Help me see where he is. I recognize you, Joseph.
Dear sisters and friends, about 2 years ago, Alice Kurtz and Karen Dietz made their annual retreat at the International Center in Le Puy. Their retreat director was our good friend, Janet Mock. And Janet gave them, all of them, a journal in which to write their own thoughts, but she added some of her own as well. So for example, one of the questions she asked, what other name could our congregation have had? See, we could have been called the community of the little design. We could have been called the congregation of the great love of God. Where did the name Sisters of St. Joseph come from? The question intrigued me, so I went into research mode, and this is what I came to understand. Prior to the 16th century, there was almost no popular devotion to St. Joseph. Occasionally, a bishop, a pope, a theologian would have something to say about Joseph, but not much. The core emphasis was on Mary and Jesus, and Joseph was just a shadowy figure in their story. It never could have been true at that point that someone like John Lynch, author of Woman Wrapped in Silence, could have written about St. Joseph. He flung his life over Mary like a cloak. In the 16th century, there was a towering figure who emerged, namely Teresa of Avila. I don't know how this happened, but she developed this great attachment for St. Joseph. He was her protector, he was her advocate, and in her autobiography, Teresa writes that if a person really wants to learn how to pray, they should go to Joseph as their master, and they will never go astray. From Teresa and from that period, popular devotion to St. Joseph began. It moved through Spain, into northern Italy, up into Switzerland, across to southwestern France. It moved in the hearts of the people, the ordinary people, and it moved into people like Jean-Pierre Médaille and Bishop Henri de Maupas. So when the time came for us to be officially launched as a religious order in the church, it was up to Bishop Henri de Maupas to do that. He gave us the name Sisters of St. Joseph. Our date of origin was October 15th, 1650. Just to put a little parentheses here that might be helpful, Teresa of Avila died in 1582. She was canonized in 1622, and the date that was assigned to her as her feast day was, guess, October 15th. So I'm not sure what all the connections are. Maybe when I die and have a chance, I'll ask Teresa and the others about it. But for the moment, I don't know. I don't know. All I'm saying is, there she was with Joseph, and there we were with Joseph as well. So after that, we began to thrive as a congregation, except for one short period during the Reformation. We grew. Eventually, we traveled to other parts of the world where we did whatever work God called us to do. Here in our congregation, as early as 1854, we began as novices and as associates to learn to pray to St. Joseph, to take into ourselves his primary virtues, which were understood to be both silence and humility. We learned them then, and we still hold to them now. They are part of the treasure of our lives. But since then, we have acquired new language out of our civil society, new language to talk about people and situations. And as we studied St. Joseph, what we found out about him is that he was also a risk taker, and he was a responder to dreams. He took to himself Mary as a wife. Now, I've worked with couples in parishes and studied them as they are preparing to marry. And if they went through with it, they knew they were taking a risk. But Joseph, taking Mary as his wife, was a risk in spades because there were dangers to the life of this child and to them. Dangers when they went to Bethlehem, to Egypt, to Jerusalem, wherever they were risk takers. And the reason that Joseph could be a risk taker was because he had internalized, he had recognized, he had taken to himself the message of God in his dreams. So he responded to his dreams, and there was never a time when Joseph did not trust his life, Mary's life, Jesus' life, to God. So in our congregation then, when we began to move out, to go to important places like Oswego and Dansville and Elmira and Selma and Brazil and all the other places that we've gone to, we have been able to go because we've had that same impetus in us. We've had the impetus to be risk takers and to be responders to dreams. So Joseph is still our model today. And we are just about to step out beyond the pandemic. We're ready to step out to acquire, again, the movement that has been part of our life. We're ready to step out and find ourselves treasuring our constitutions, our chapter directives. We're ready to move into a new place to be, even physically. These are all in our future, and we can do them because Joseph is our companion, our guide, and our friend. Joseph, as he did for Mary, has flung the cloak of his life over us. And so, because we believe this, and we are the company of Joseph, we offer a few more reflections by sisters who have graciously agreed to be part of this program today, and one of our associates. So I'm going to say to each of them, to Hilda Grace, to Sheila Connor, to Marge Dinsky, and to Sheila Bryety, tell us where your son is, Joseph. Tell us where Jesus is in our day. Tell us how you see God through the lens of Joseph.
St. Joseph's tools: a chisel, a hand plane, and a mallet, all tools of the trade for our ordinary carpenter. Looking at a carpenter's workbench, I am reminded of St. Joseph and his illuminating qualities while on earth. I like to think of Joseph as the great reminder, an obedient servant to God and his word, an unwavering protector and guide to his family. Joseph built a strong and safe foundation for Mary and Jesus to thrive and to flourish. A caring and devoted father's example for generations to follow. Thank you, dear Lord, for this earthly carpenter who cherished Mary and nurtured Jesus. Other reminders of Joseph's sweet goodness are his strong and worn hands. Working tirelessly on his projects, we can only imagine that he paused at times throughout the day to dust them off, fold them, and pray to his God. A chisel, a hand plane, and a mallet, all tools of the trade for an ordinary carpenter. visual reminders of Joseph's extraordinary acceptance of God's will. I hope that I can use my tools of the trade as gentle Joseph used his so long ago.
Joseph brings to mind many words and ideas: simplicity, humility, silence. But for me, Joseph is so much more than that. I go to the story of his taking Mary, who is pregnant, as his wife. He has a plan, but then in a dream, an angel tells him not to be afraid to take Mary as his wife. Joseph's mind and heart were open to a different way, and he trusted that it was his God calling him to take a risk.
Jesus developed courage under Joseph, the provider. His quiet confidence helps me respond to the needs of my patients, the family of Joseph, our cities, and our world. Jesus and his Father cloak us in safety as we respond to ministerial needs or unearth disease from the body or from the spirit. Jesus and Joseph dwell in those unnamed providers of safety during the pandemic. In these times of uncertainty, Jesus and Joseph lead me to trust and understand that God will give me what I need when I need it and gives me answers in commas when I have periods.
I value generational legacy. When we look at the generational legacy for Jesus, we see how through divine providence, Jesus was taught to be fully human by his dad and mom, Joseph and Mary. This is also true for us. The Holy Spirit, through the first 6 sisters of St. Joseph, handed on to us the maxims, the wisdom of faith generations. Call to mind portions of Maxim 84. Never go ahead of grace. Quietly await its movements and go along with it. However each of us uniquely receives direction of the Holy Spirit, we are reminded, wait patiently, go along with it as God directs. Isn't that the model of life of Jesus, Mary, and Joseph?
This is a poem written by Sister Margaret Teresa Kelly, SSJ, entitled Hymn to St. Joseph. Dear humble sacristan, your love prepared through listening years the world's one offering. You dreamed and shaped and carved, hearing the word, and laid in readiness each sacred thing. Oh, give us part with you and part with them. Let us be listeners, offerers, offering. Let us be living wood, carve here your dreams. Put love in order, vows to valor bring. And Joseph, Father, teach our hearts to sing. Have a happy feast day. God bless you.